Chad, how's it going? Gary, what's up? Kathleen, how you doing? Susan, hello. Cindy, how are you? I'm doing good, Cindy. On the agenda tonight. A lot of good stuff. Got some Bull Pony, got some economy, got some Watchmen. Give it a few seconds here, guys. They're not making it easy for anybody with conservative content. You know, anything patriotic, anything Christian is attacked. So we deal with it, which means that, you know, the numbers are definitely restricted. They're not putting us out like we talked about this last year. We actually got, we were getting thousands of views a year ago. I think and it was growing like exponentially. I think we hit over 3,000 views on it. 3,500 I think was the most. And this was putting out a video every night, and we were getting over 1,000 views at least, and it was growing. And then all of a sudden, the shadow banning started, and there we go. You know, now we're getting, 100, 150 views a night. Huge reduction. Who knows where we would have been if they'd let us keep rolling. David's here. Dorothy's here. Let's go ahead and get started. Swampwatch. 12/5/19. Posted a Bull Pony interview. Oh, Cindy invited a few more Facebook friends that accepted. Good work, Cindy. Keep it up, guys. Now's the time. Strike while the iron's hot. People are curious. Uh, so, Bull Pony, he agrees. There's no way this impeachment goes through. Before I forget, I want to make a correction because I misspoke earlier this week. I was mistaken about the vote in the House. The vote in the House to take it to a trial is a majority vote. So the Democrats will probably get this. This will go to the Senate. But in the Senate, we have a majority with the Republicans. So we probably would win a majority vote. But there, it's a 2/3. So they can't win in the Senate. There's absolutely zero chance they can win in the Senate. Yeah, I think we've got, it's 52-48, I think. They'd have to turn, I don't know what the numbers are, I'd have to figure it out, but they'd probably have to turn 20 Republicans. It's not going to happen with no evidence. It probably wouldn't happen if they had evidence. But in this case, here's the other thing that's important here. Probably the most important issue of this circus is what it's going to do, how this is going to expose the Democrats. Because now, when they go to the Senate, they don't have any more control over these rules about, who can ask questions, who can't, who's going to testify, who isn't. The Republicans control it. It is going to be straight up, legit, by the book, which means both sides will get to call any witnesses they want and be able to ask any questions they want. Which means Biden is going to get called. The whole crew. Both Bidens will be called, plus Schiff, I think, maybe even Pelosi. They are going to make them pay for their ignorance. Now, Biden's already said he's not going to participate. He doesn't have any choice. He's thinking he could just not show up. He's going to show up. He'll probably plead the fifth on most questions, but he's going to show up. He's going to have to show up. It's going to illustrate to the general public how corrupt these people are. What's Schiff going to say under testimony? Going to be good watching, guys. This is not a bad thing for conservatives, for President Trump, for the country. It just piles on what we saw with the circus in the House, and how the president's numbers are going up because of this. They're only going to go up even more when they can put these guys under the microscope on their terms. It's going to be good watching for sure. So don't lose any sleep. Don't be upset about what's happening right now, because again, I couldn't write a better script. They're just helping us expose them, It's all good, guys. Let me see if there's anything else I want to hit before I go into this. Oh, dollar dives for the 5th straight day. But stock surge on bad trade news. So this is kind of interesting because they actually dipped when the Wall Street Journal put out a story about that insiders aren't very confident they're going to get a trade deal with China. I have to believe that this is. I still say, I've been saying this for over a year, I think. China, Russia, the United States are working together on this. There won't be a trade deal. The economy's going to collapse. However they set it up. Maybe it's because they don't get a trade deal and that's what finally brings it down. It doesn't really make any difference. It's interesting, though, that the Wall Street Journal now has kind of turned, because normally they would have been touting the economy, how great it is, and oh yeah, keep pouring your money in. But mainstream media, look what's happening. I think they're setting the stage, because what have we been saying? The minute they believe that the arrests are imminent, which they are, they're gonna cut loose and tear this economy up. They're probably, at this point, they're the most likely culprits to what the trigger is. It looks like now, because here we are, the 9th is on Monday. If the FISA gets released, I would expect next week the economy to tank. I think they're going to have to do that to control the narrative, or to try and control the narrative. I don't think it's going to happen, but I don't know what else they have left. They might throw RBG out there, Ginsburg. They might. I saw something today that she retired on November 8th or some crap. It could be her. They finally admit she's dead. It could be the Queen. It could be Carter, as a way to distract from the FISA report. But the economy might be the most likely scenario, because I think they're going to need something pretty big. We'll see how it plays out. But everything's lining up with Bull Pony's numbers that we're still looking at this month, guys, before the end of the year. We'll see. Because of... Oh, yeah. Twitter confirmed censorship today in their new terms of agreement. They're basically flat out saying they're going to shadow ban. This is all coming to an end, guys. I'm not sure exactly when, but sometime before the election, these companies, these social media companies, will be lined out. The censorship will end, guaranteed, before the election. Because we've been getting so many new members, and there's a lot of questions about, the Watchman page and, who we are, what we do. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit. Well, that's the whole point. When the FISA warrant comes, or when the FISA report does come out, everybody's going to have to talk about it. Now the mainstream will, of course, try and downplay it, but everyone else is going to, Fox and all the independents are going to hammer it home. They're going to need to try and deflect it. However they're going to do that. They will come up with something. It's either going to be a shooting, it's going to be one of these people coming up dead, or they'll collapse the economy. I mean, those are the ammunition they have left. That's what they're looking at. Danielle, how you doing? The Watchman page. I was called by God in 2014 to be a watchman out of the clear blue. It was like a bolt of lightning hit me. something I never expected, something I would have never guessed I would be in this situation doing what I'm doing today. The very last thing in the world I would have ever expected. When this happened, I was still rodeoing. I was actually at the Senior National Finals in Las Vegas in 2014 when this happened. I'd planned to rodeo for another year. I planned to go at least to finish, go through 2015. And out of the clear blue, and I rode bucking horses for almost 40 years. 2015 would have been an even 40. That's what I was going for. Had a great year. And then at the finals, it was the weirdest thing I've ever experienced. It was like a bolt of lightning. I mean, I was in the shower. And in that shower, I knew that I was done with rodeo at the end of the finals. That I knew it right there. And I didn't say anything to my wife. At 59 years old, that's really old to be riding bucking horses. Something that's, I think it's the most dangerous event in rodeo. I certainly had more injuries in bareback riding than I ever did in bull riding or steer wrestling. And out of the clear blue, something I'd done for 40 years and had planned to continue, I retired. The end of the finals, I announced my retirement and haven't been back. And, I there's things about it that I miss, obviously, but I really haven't looked back. I mean, there's no regrets. Because even though this is the hardest thing I've ever done, it's the most rewarding thing I've ever done. I mean, you can't imagine, when you're competing, that always comes first, or always did come first, as far as, I mean, of course, you got your family, you've got your work, but, it was a huge part of my life. And I always wondered how, I always said, when I quit having fun, or when I can't be competitive, I would walk away. And I was still having fun, and I was still competitive. So to leave that way was really out of character for me. And I didn't tell my wife until the next day, because I wanted to really think about this. And, because I really, at that point, I wasn't really sure. I just got this message, is the only way I can describe it. You're done with rodeo. There's something else for me to do. And, so I retired at the finals. And I went through about 6 weeks where I was kind of trying to figure this out. And then things started popping up for me. The first thing was the economy. And I was a victim. We were a victim of the '08 recession. We lost our construction business because I didn't see it coming. And then I didn't react quick enough when it did hit. So in 2014, after I got this message, one of the first things that popped up for me, and it's like the best way I can describe it is like I'm on a path that's lit for me. I'm following the path, the light. And it kind of meanders around. It's led me to the first ever worldwide economic collapse and the possible danger that could come with that we're about ready to start any day now. The draining of the swamp and the dangers that could be there. Exposing the pedophilia, the satanic pedophilia that's been going on for thousands of years, since Babylon, I believe. Show me things like Carbon 60. It's a supplement. I've been taking it now, I think, for 4 years. Just in a nutshell, it's a supplement. Take it once a day. Because of my injuries, I had a hard time with my knees. Couldn't walk like downhill on uneven ground, going downstairs. It hurt. After 6 weeks of taking Carbon 60, zero pain. Since then, been 4 years. I can run again. Knees don't bother me at all. I would recommend everybody go to YouTube, search Carbon 60, and look at some of the studies. Best supplement I've ever taken. I believe it actually will extend human life. I believe it'll cure a lot of maladies. I think that everybody should be looking at it, especially what it is. Basically, it's a super antioxidant. The molecules are so tiny, it can get into cells that most other antioxidants can't. And I believe it clears out a lot of the impurities that we're getting, both by accident and on purpose, based on the Agenda 21 and what they've got planned for all of us, and the crap they feed us, and the shit they spray on us. So I'd recommend everybody take a look at it, and I recommend everybody get it. It's like $18 for a 100 ml bottle. It lasts a week. So for about $80 a month, you can get the best supplement there is in the market, I believe. They showed me Litecoin and silver, physical silver, as a way to protect ourselves against what's coming. Here's the thing. God wants his people to lead this new world. We have been the subject of pretty blatant attacks when you look at conservatives and Christians. Now I forgot where I was going. Okay, Carbon 60, Litecoin, physical silver. All of these things God was showing me. And, of course, the physical silver, that's where I was going. We have been beaten down by these people, these elite, this cabal, that have controlled the wealth in the world for thousands of years. God, there's going to be a change in that. In the Bible it says, what has been stolen from you, paraphrasing, will be returned sevenfold. That's what's happening with physical silver and Litecoin. That's where that sevenfold is coming from. I know the numbers sound crazy, but they're no more crazy than buying Apple stock in 1970. You'd be a billionaire today if you did that. This is the same thing, only bigger. Because cryptocurrencies are going to be bigger than the tech bubble. This is the future of money, guys. It's more secure. The biggest thing, it makes banks obsolete. You don't need banks with cryptocurrencies because you're going person to person, person to business. You don't need that bank to manage that transfer. It's all done over the internet. That's why the banks, especially a couple of years ago, were so panicked about it and so anti-cryptocurrency because they saw where this is going. Now they see they can't stop it. They're trying to jump on the bandwagon. Bottom line is, this is how Christians and conservatives take control of the world. This is how, again, with this work, I'm not selling anything. I don't accept donations. I don't charge fees. A lot of these channels giving out information, they have, subscription fees, or they're asking for donations. I don't do that here. All I ask is that you pay it forward. That anything you gain from the knowledge you get from the Watchmen, you pay it forward. That's what God wants. That's all that I ask for. And trust me, you won't believe the feeling you get. It's like you do it and you want to do more of it because it's so rewarding. This is a little bit tougher, what we're doing now with trying to red pill people, because, and it's, although it's getting easier, you could imagine doing this 5 years ago. It was like running into a brick wall every day, because 5 years ago nobody wanted to hear this stuff. But it is amazing what's happened in the world since then. So, in a nutshell, that's what we do. We don't ask for anything. We don't expect anything. All we want to do is do the best we can for fellow patriots and Christians and citizens to get through this thing. Ultimately, the thing that separates us from most other countries is our attitude. We don't give up. We don't quit. And when things get tough, we pull together and we work through these problems. There's been a lot of confusion about unity and what that means. Unity is a negative thing when you're talking about Agenda 21 and the UN and a one world government, a one world religion, and a one world monetary system. What we're talking about here is a totally different type of unity. We're talking about Christians and conservatives coming together for a common cause for the betterment of mankind, destroying the evil in this world that wants that other unity. The unity that we're not going to accept. The unity they want that has been basically destroyed by President Trump. There's still people, I run across them every day, still conservatives who believe President Trump is a deep state plant. All I have to say to those people is, you really need to do more homework. Because here's what I'll tell you about the deep state and the globalists. They would never let anyone do the damage that President Trump's done to their agenda for 3 years. He's basically destroyed, in less than 3 years, destroyed everything they've worked for over 200 years. Do you think he's a plant when he's basically destroyed everything that they've done up to this point? It's crazy. It makes absolutely no sense. Hillary Clinton, if you take Donald Trump out of the equation, Hillary Clinton was going to win this election by a landslide. They would have just let her win. And this thing would have already been over by now. There would have been a nuclear war going on right now. President Trump is not a deep state plant. President Trump was anointed by God. President Trump has been guided and protected by God. To me, it couldn't be any clearer. I mean, I don't know how people don't see this. Because he would not be alive today if God wasn't protecting him. He would have never got elected if it wasn't for God. I mean, he won a fixed election. They saw the numbers. They saw what was happening at his rallies. Hillary Clinton was smug as can be. You know why? Because she knew they had it rigged. She just didn't realize it wasn't rigged good enough. That's how overwhelming the support was. And my God, look where it's at today. 95% approval rating, breaking Reagan's record by 7 points. Reagan was 88%. He's 95 and growing. What do you think is going to happen when the satanic pedophilia is exposed and the world finally realizes why he's been under such attack? It's not because he's a bad guy. It's not because they don't like him. It's because they know he's coming for them. That's why. I used to look back 5 years ago, looking to the future, and trying to find a path where we could get to where we are right now today, to this very point we're at right now. I used to think, how can we get to a point like this without millions of people dying? I couldn't find a path. But God got us here. There's no way that this should have happened without millions of people dying. With as powerful as the deep state was, with all of the assets they had planted around the world, in Iran, in North Korea, Syria, I mean, all over the world, they had planted their bases. Ukraine, look where we are today. They're on the verge of utter total collapse. They're panicking. You can see it in their faces. Look at the mistakes they're making every day. They can't get anything right. If you don't see God's hand in this, you're not looking hard enough. So yeah, the goal for us, and then the reason that, and here's the other thing, you know, the things that have happened through this 5 years, the people that have come into my life, the things that have happened, that, I mean, every time we were faced with a challenge, it was a roadblock was suddenly, every time we came into that, it was poof, removed. Every obstacle we faced mysteriously vanished before it ever became a problem. I survived a hemorrhagic stroke. It's the most deadly and least common stroke there is. Most people aren't walking, barely talking, most paralyzed. And, you know, not that we didn't get through it unscathed, but, you know, I've got some loss of vision, I've got some cognitive stuff, but compared to what most people experience going through this kind of thing, God's hands are all over this. That I'm still able to do this work is amazing in itself. So that's where we're at, guys. And the whole point of this page is to recruit more like-minded people that want to put others first, that want to pay it forward, because there's a lot of people that still don't understand what's happening. Those people are much more susceptible to problems, to danger, because I honestly believe the ones that are prepared extra food, extra water, medical supplies, ammo, physical silver, Litecoin, cash, filtration devices, Faraday bags. There's a whole list, and you need to expand on that. But I believe the ones that are prepared are going to thrive through this. The other thing about this knowledge is there's nothing that's going to happen that we can't get through. What's going to get most people is panic and fear. There's no room for panic or fear coming up, guys. There's no reason for panic and fear. One of our goals here, my job, my calling, was to get people prepared physically, spiritually, and mentally. And if you're prepared physically, spiritually, and mentally, there's no reason to fear anything that's coming. Listen, bottom line, we're all going to die at some point. If I were not to make it through this process, but we headed where I know we're headed, to eradicating this evil, to the greatest transfer of wealth in human history, to man's greatest age, I can accept that because I know where I'm going when this is over. I've lived a good life. I got no fear dying. And if I die doing this, what other better way to go? If you're a Christian and you understand that there's no ending to this story, that we keep going from here, this is just the beginning. There's nothing to fear. You're ready mentally. You're ready spiritually. The physical part, that's the prepping. I wouldn't trade places with anybody at any time in history. I don't want to go anywhere. People talk about being raptured. I don't want to be raptured. I don't believe in it. And being Catholic, most of you should understand, it doesn't go along with what we're taught. And I don't think there's a lot of merit to the rapture, but that's not even an issue. One thing I believe, that we're going to know probably in the next year or two the whole story, because I believe that there's this awakening. It's not just an awakening about the evils in the world. It's a spiritual awakening. We're going to see a revival in belief in God, but it's going to be different. I see organized religions gone. I think what's happening right now, I was raised Catholic. Went to parochial school, was an altar boy. I believe we're seeing the end of the Catholic religion as we know it. It's over. They can't survive it, and probably shouldn't. God didn't intend for religion to be what they are, for church to be what it is today. Church isn't about a building. Church is about us and how we live our lives every day. It's about, living your lives, paying it forward, putting others first. That's what God wants to see. We don't need to be in a church for an hour a day. He'd much rather see us working together, helping others, painting somebody's house, mowing a lawn, helping out a neighbor who's going through a tough time financially, whatever the case may be. He'd rather see us doing these things on a personal level, one-to-one, than donating to some charity that's going to steal 90% of it. Much better to put that money in somebody's hands that needs it. Much better to have home churches, Bible study groups, where we're setting a plan to what we're going to do for the next week, the good things we're going to accomplish, the actual physical tasks that we're going to do to make the world a better place. That's what God wants to see in his church. He wants us to be in church every day. It's not a building we go to once a week for an hour and think that we're good, that we're good people because we sat in a building for an hour. And hey, the message might be great that you get there, but that's not what God intended. He's not happy about what most religions are doing today. Look no further than clergy response teams. Google it. There were 85,000 priests, ministers, preachers who were on the payroll of FEMA. It was their jobs when this all went down, Agenda 21, their job was to get their flocks into the FEMA camps, to get them to accept the FEMA camps. Clergy response teams, Google it. That's the kind of things that God is not happy about. Things that have been going on in the Catholic religion for hundreds of years now. On and on and on and on and on. It's over. I think this awakening is going to be spiritual, but not how the churches expect it to be. It's going to be a whole different world, guys. A much better world. When this evil is removed, just think every war for the last 200 years, every terrorist attack, every school shooting, you can trace right back to this evil. These satanic pedophiles trying to control the world. And it's all over now. When when this swamp is drained, that evil is going to be removed forever. Going to be eradicated from the face of the earth. Everyone that's guilty of treason is going to be executed. Everyone that's guilty of torturing and murdering children is going to be executed. There are tens of thousands of them. Look at the Epstein case. Look at the NXIVM case. Look at who went to Pedo Island. There were 15,000 elite members of that NXIVM sex slave cult. That's a fact. They had the trial in New York several months ago. It's all real, guys, and it's all happening. And our job as watchmen is to wake up as many people as we can, as quickly as we can, to get people prepared for what's coming. Because the more people are prepared, the easier this is going to be for all of us, including President Trump. It'll be fewer people he has to take care of when the shit hits the fan. Okay, I think that's all I'm going to hit for tonight. Yeah, we were just talking about that, Danielle. Yeah, so for everybody now, the best thing you can do, considering everything that's going on with Facebook, is just at 5 o'clock every evening, because I'm going to do them every night, go to the Watchman page and just scroll down till you see it. And it'll be under either me or Kathy's name, depending on, where we're at with Facebook. So, okay, wait a minute. Yeah, well, and it's going to get worse. Gary's talking about Twitter and what they'll allow. It's going to get worse. That's okay. Because it's going to get better, too. It is a whacked out world, for sure, guys. Craziest thing. Listen, I knew about this stuff. I was probably about 12 years old. 67. I knew that this church was corrupt. I knew that our government was corrupt. I could see no way that we could ever get to this point, that we could ever get rid of that evil. And look at where we are. Amazing. No problem, Mike. Oh, what was his name, Danielle? And where is he from? I might know him. I started riding in '75 was my first year. No crying. Thanks, David. Gary's asking if Hillary or Obama is at Gitmo. Not that I know of for sure. There's been rumors floating around for over a month that Obama was there. I've got no confirmation of that, and I think when it happens, we're going to know about it. Yeah. Well, the Democrats. Um, well, I think it's by design that the Democrats naturally, um, when this all goes down, we're going to see that the main the main driving force for this satanic pedophilia has come through the Democratic Party, liberals. There was a lot of conservatives involved, but a lot of the conservatives were were kind of trapped into this stuff. Where they lead them on, they get them, get a new guy, they get them drunk or drugged, get pictures of them in bed with a kid. You know, they own him, right? That's what the honeypots are all about. Um, and a lot of times maybe it's a kid that is 15 years old but looks 20. You know, um, but the driving force has been on the liberal side of this thing. A lot of Republicans are going to go down though, guys. You'll be surprised. Well, have your dad start taking carbon 60 because that'll help his knees. Yeah, good and cheap, carbon 60 and olive oil. Gary's got it. Like $18 a bottle. Last a week. Danielle, that's most bull riders are. I don't know very many rodeo cowboys that are Democrats. Honestly, that's surprising. Well, listen, everybody's going to change. Here's what's going to happen with people like Danielle's father. They're not going to be able to deny it. There's no one I know, and I live 25 miles from San Francisco. We lost virtually every friend we had here when I started this journey. But not one of those people will be a Democrat in a year. Because when they find out what the Democrats are responsible for, when they see the video of Hillary Clinton torturing and murdering an 8-year-old child, you think they'll ever vote Democrat again? Not a chance in hell. This is the end of the Democratic Party. This is the end of the mainstream media. They cannot survive this. And the world is going to unite behind President Trump when they see the truth. They are panicked. You can see it in their faces. You can see it in their actions, guys. This isn't going to go to the end of the year. I really don't believe it. This is about ready to blow up. Yeah, I'll tell you, Danielle, everybody in the Watchmen has struggled with this with a friend or a family member who you're very close with who just can't get it. And I think the best thing you can do is back off a little bit, but stay close. Because trust me, when this hits the mainstream media, and it's going to hit fairly soon, it's going to be on 24/7. You won't be able to hide from it. You won't be able to deny it. And these people who have been so resistant are now going to be suffering from cognitive dissonance, and they're going to be very curious. So they're going to need us to be there for them. Yeah, they just don't get it. And here's what happens, guys. For most people, it's cognitive dissonance already setting in. So cognitive dissonance is when you have a strongly held belief that's contradicted by facts of something else. You can't. It's like a computer freezing, right, and buffering. It's too much info, too much conflicting info, and they can't adjust for it in their head. They can't figure it out. It doesn't make sense. So they just kind of freeze up. That's our biggest danger, I believe, is cognitive dissonance. That's why it's really important, like especially Danielle with her father. When this goes down, you want to be in immediate contact with them, because we always say we prepare for the worst and hope for the best. I don't think this is going to go worst case scenario, but if it does, they're expecting extensive rioting and looting, civil unrest. The stores could close, the banks could close. If that happens, there's no food in the stores, there's going to be rioting and looting, because, there's 3-day average, 3 days of food in the stores, 3 days of food in every household. You go a week with no food in the stores, and you're going to have problems. I think President Trump's on top of this, but you can imagine, try thinking about having cognitive dissonance in the middle of the worst civil unrest the country's ever seen. And no food, no water, no power. If it goes that route, it could be really dangerous. A really dangerous time not to be thinking clearly. And if you've got cognitive dissonance, you're not going to be thinking clearly. All of you think back to the first time you heard about the satanic pedophilia and how that made you feel for a couple of days. For most of you, it rocked you pretty hard. Just imagine getting that information plus everything else you've learned in the past couple of years within a week or two of each other, and then having massive civil unrest and danger out in the streets. It's not a good scenario. So we got to stay close to those people we care about through this, because they're going to need us. Yeah, you definitely want your cryptocurrency, you want your Litecoin out of Coinbase. Get your Ledger Nano S. I think Coinbase will probably survive the first few months of the collapse. I wouldn't want my coins in there 30 days after. Because I'm using Coinbase as kind of a secondary bank account, I still got a few coins in Coinbase, but, as soon as I see something happen solid, I'll move them out that day. It takes you 2 minutes to move them. I don't expect Coinbase to go down in the initial stages of this thing. They're one of the most solid exchanges out there. But the problem is they're an exchange. And if this market goes wonky and they haven't covered themselves with enough Litecoin, because it's a problem, the same with a bank. The bank only needs a certain percentage, right, to operate. of deposits. Well, exchanges are the same way. They don't have a Litecoin for everybody who's paid for a Litecoin on Coinbase. So if everybody tried to draw them out at the same time, that could cause a collapse. So you want to kind of be ahead of this thing a little bit. If you don't need them in there, if you're not using Coinbase to transfer into your account, get them out now. Don't wait. Yeah. The best thing, Danielle, is not to overthink it, because it's very hard to convince somebody it's that ingrained in. The best thing with your dad is to just let it roll. When it happens, be there for him. Well, here's the thing, guys. Who is this? Dorothy. Most people don't realize the the British Crown has had their fingers in our business since 18, I think 71. You know, we had to file, but most people don't know this. We had to file bankruptcy after the Revolutionary War. And somehow the Crown got a hold of our paper, and we haven't been really 100% free of Britain since then. Supposedly, in June, when President Trump met with the Queen, he told her it was over, that we were done playing that game. We'll see how it all plays out, but some really interesting stuff is going to come out about our history here, guys, through this process. Well, listen, all we can do, guys, when we're out there in social media, it's hit or miss. All you can do is you got to use your head. You got to have some strategy behind it. But you attack these conversations with we don't want to start fights. What we want to do is turn people's thinking a little bit, get them to think a little bit differently. Um, if you sometimes you try and hit these things head on, you just end up butting heads. Don't get anywhere. Sometimes you gotta think outside the box a little bit. That's why I like using 9/11, because it takes the opinions out of it. You go to straight fact. With 9/11, you can show them facts and prove to them, get them going down that path. Because once you show them that our government is capable of murdering 3,000 citizens to better their position, they all of a sudden now start to have second thoughts about the way they thought about our government, right? That's a hard pill for most people to swallow. That's right, Kathleen. God wants his people to be prepared. He wants them to know what's happening. That's how we survive it. Yep, keep pushing. Um, who's going through chemo? Is that you, Cheryl? Did I just posted an article about cancer and a treatment in the last day or two. Um, it's pretty amazing. It's like a dog medication that cured a guy. He had like pancreatic cancer and it cured it. And they've had many other success stories. So whoever this is that's going through chemo, please go back. Who is this? So is that you, Cheryl? Are you going through chemo? Please, please look for that article. I think I posted it yesterday. If you can't find it, please message me. You should take a look at that. I think that medication is $5 a week. It's definitely worth a shot. Project Looking Glass. I think there's something to it, and I think we're going to know here. I, Everything that's hidden will be known. There's a lot about technology. We are way more advanced than they've been telling us. There's all sorts of things. Um, yeah, and I think that's part of it too. Yeah, this I can't stress enough how important your a positive mental attitude is. Um, and once you really get into this and you really take it down, strip it down to the nuts and bolts, we all should be celebrating. You know, it's all of the crap, the propaganda. You know, you hear the economy's collapsing, and right away you think, "Oh my God, that's terrible." It's not. The economy has to collapse so we can get rid of these criminal banksters that have been stealing us blind for hundreds of years with the systems they set up. And of course, then they legitimize it. You know, like the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is not it's not a federal agency. It's a private bank. They named it the Federal Reserve. And I'll bet you do a survey today, ask people whether the Federal Reserve is a private or a government bank. 90% of people are going to tell you it's a government bank. Private bank. We can't even audit the Fed. We don't know 100% who owns the Fed. And they're controlling our economy, our money supply. Do you realize how crazy that is? It's the biggest scam perpetrated on the American people was the Federal Reserve. Up until 1913, we printed our own money. What do we need the Federal Reserve for? Central banks are the way they've destroyed and controlled the world. That all comes to an end with this economic collapse. And cryptocurrencies, it destroys central banks and the bankers. They need to be destroyed. Most of them are satanic pedophiles. Anybody that got to the upper echelons of this club, politics, judicial system, government, business, big business, celebrities, newscasters. If you were going to get to the top in those fields, you had to be part of the club. And to get it to be part of the club, you had to torture and murder a child. That was your initiation. They got you on film, so they owned you. Now you can't ever turn on them, because if you do, you're the first one to go down. Because the first thing you do is send that tape to all their CIA outlets to expose you. This was the corruption is unbelievable. The levels they've gone to. And yeah, who is this? Kathleen again. I 100% believe that we changed the course of our future when we elected President Trump. Did you notice what President Trump's number one priority was when he took office? It was to end child sex trafficking. That was his number one priority, and human trafficking. But the key was child sex trafficking. Abortion, they will overturn Roe versus Wade before the end of his second term. Having someone like that running our country, I think, changed God's plan for us. I think when that happened, Armageddon went from the physical to the spiritual. And since then, Armageddon has been playing out. The ultimate battle between good and evil is playing out right now behind the scenes. Not that there aren't shots being fired. I mean, there's a lot of stories coming out about like what happened with some of these earthquakes in California, that basically the white hats have been fighting an underground battle against the black hats in all these bases, cleaning up the child sex trafficking, weeding out the deep state assets, all of their weapons, the chemtrailing, 95% has been all good. The point is I believe 100% behind the United States now and what we're doing. I don't think we've got, if people have talked about nuclear wars and Russia's going to attack us or China's going to invade us or the UN's going to invade us. None of that's going to happen. None of it. I mean, we might go through a rough patch. There might be some earth changes. We might have some stuff to, earthquakes, tornadoes, volcanoes, tsunamis, hurricanes. We'll see how it all plays out. But we're not going to see, I don't see millions of people dying in what's coming by what I've been shown. I see best case scenario happening. I see best case scenario happening with President Trump and what we're headed into. And that's why I don't think that we're going to go through, a 5-year recovery and a rough patch is 5 years long. I think this is going to be a quick turnaround. Less than 2 years, maybe less than a year. It's pretty phenomenal when you think about the changes that are coming. So hang in there, guys. It's all good. Well, we're not going to get into Rebecca. Here's my story. Since it's brought up, I wasn't going to talk about this, but I'm going to at least put my 2 cents in. Most people, most Christians, don't understand where the Bible actually came from. If you actually study the history of the Bible, the actual physical history of the Bible, you'll find that the Bible was actually put together in about 300 AD at the Council of Nicaea. Emperor Constantine, who I think was also a pope, they put the final books together for our modern day Bible. There were hundreds of books that they chose from to select the ones that got in to the Bible. Well, this was Catholics who put this. The Bible was basically written by Catholics and Jews. The Jews wrote the Old Testament. The Catholics wrote the New Testament, or what became the Catholics, the Catholic Church. I was taught the Bible by Catholics. That's how I was raised. The Catholics wrote the New Testament. There's no talk of rapture in the Catholic religion. There is no such thing. And when you investigate further, you find that the idea for the rapture didn't come about until 1830 by a preacher. I think he was out of Canada. So that's the first time in history the rapture was even discussed. Now, to a Catholic, rapture or die and go to heaven, what's the difference? To me, I want to be here as long as I can. I die. But I'm certainly not looking for a free pass. And so I think for Christians that believe in the rapture, I think you need to do a little bit more research on it. It's funny how few preachers are not priests, but priests know it pretty well, but how few ministers can tell you where the idea for the rapture even came from. So bottom line is, I believe in God. I believe that things are different than the religions have portrayed them, because in a lot of instances, religion was used as a way to control the masses. So you got to be smart enough to weed through this stuff. You got to have an open mind. You've got to use your critical thinking skills, because there are going to be, and you're already starting to see it, a lot of false prophets out there. Anybody who's teaching anything contrary to the basic concepts of Christianity, which is basically putting others first, paying it forward. Those are the things that God wants. How we die and how we get to heaven, to me, it's irrelevant. I could really care less about it. What's happening right now? What does God really want out of us? Those are the important questions. Now, the other thing I want to make clear, I'm not a preacher. Never claimed to be a preacher. Not my job. I don't want you coming to me for any questions you have, I'm happy to answer. But that's not my main function, is to preach the gospel. My main function, my really only job as far as God's concerned, is to wake up and get prepared as many people, he didn't even specify Christians, as many people as I can between now and when this all blows up. It's very simple. And that's all I ask of you guys, is to do the same thing. Try and wake up as many people as you can, as quickly as you can, because in the long run, it's going to be better for all of us. It's going to be better for the world. It's going to be better for our country. It's all good. Yeah, these aren't the same honeypots as you saw in Winnie the Pooh, or Winnie the Pooh. Well, this is funny that you mentioned that, Danielle, because here's something else that I've learned in the last 5 years. Women are much smarter about this stuff than men are. Women's intuition about this stuff is far more advanced than most men. By far. Most men are too hard-headed and proud and egotistical to admit that they could be wrong. So it's kind of a flaw right up front, which makes it harder to get through. Because the women are a lot easier to to make an intelligent argument with. They're willing to listen if you can make an intelligent argument for the most part, at least compared to men. Yeah. And this is the Mike saying, you know, I a lot of times here in California, I won't even talk about what's really coming. I'll just talk about getting prepared. I don't care why they're prepared. They could be preparing because the preparation for an earthquake or a tsunami is the same as what we're doing. You want to do the same things. So I don't care that you're prepared because you think a tsunami or an earthquake's coming, just as long as you're prepared. Once we get into it, we'll catch up. Oh, shoot. Okay. Yeah, these banks. Well, the thing is, they're running scared. You know, you got to look at what's going on with the Fed and the repo program. This could be the end here, guys. Um, they can't keep up. It's getting worse every week, and it's going to come to a head here in the next several weeks here with the Fed. Yeah, Chase is on the ropes. Deutsche Bank's on the ropes. Either one of those banks goes down, and this is all over. Deutsche Bank, Chase, either one. Gary, we're not going to have that discussion. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion here. And we're all going to find out the truth. That's the beautiful thing about what's happening here. This is all going to come out. There won't be any arguments in 6 months or a year because it's all going to be black and white. Yeah, and anybody who's a watchman right now, it's not an accident that you're here. You're here because God wants you here to be a watchman. I think, yeah, everybody, everybody who's smart is praying every single day right now. Okay. All right. That's the end of the questions, guys. And I went long. So I'm going to wrap it up tonight. Remember, try and be positive when you're reaching out to people. It's going to help them accept this a little bit easier. Don't give up. Keep pushing. Keep prepping. Remember, extra food if you can to help pay it forward when we go through this rough patch. Extra Litecoin and silver if you can. You'll be able to help more people as we go through the recovery. Do what you can. I think I'm going to end it there for tonight, guys. Remember, fear not. God and President Trump are still 1,000% in control. We'll see you tomorrow night at 5. God bless.